There are a lot of things to discuss when it comes to Dragon Age the Veilguard, many being especially if you're big fans of the series. Let's say you played all of them, or maybe you just started with Inquisition and really enjoyed that. You sit down to play Veilguard and you're like, this really isn't like anything else from the series. Now usually when someone makes a comment like this, that could maybe lead to something good. It's like nothing else because the developers were able to achieve something really special, delivering on fan expectations along with being a new game that honors and does justice to the legacy and series as a whole. But I think when longtime fans sat down to play this particular game, they were faced with the harsh truth that the Dragon Age they knew and loved probably just died right there with this game. They waited 10 years for a new entry and were provided some of the worst slop that could be provided to a loyal fan. And here it is, you are left with that disappointment and frustration. This might be the last time you see this property, and you are left with this. But hey, maybe you might change your mind in 5 years, but you probably won't, because time doesn't really change a bad game like this one. So I saw a tweet from Spawnwave Media, which I thought was one worth discussing here. He said that in 4 to 5 years from now that people will probably look back on this game as a fun one. I just think this is an incredibly bad take, and not one where he was even reading the room of Dragon Age fans. And I also wonder too if this is someone who started with Origins, or maybe Veilguard was the first title they played. It feels like future gaslighting. I think if anything, time is going to further expose how bad this title was and is, and how much of a misfire it was and a poor use of the property. Dragon Age the Veilguard is going to be one in a long run of games during this time period in entertainment, where legacy properties are then brought back and then ruined. They disregard the work that was done to build up the property to begin with. They throw it away and do not cater to the fans. And most of all, they just do not understand nor respect Dragon Age. Now look, if you like the game, that's fine. Who am I to tell you what you should and should not enjoy? I'm not attacking the creator of the tweet. I am directing these comments at his take, and this game as a whole. Maybe you enjoy the more action-focused gameplay. Maybe this was your jumping in point for the series. If this was your first game, I would very much insist that you go to Origins and play that game if you haven't. If you want to see the game that we have been wanting a sequel to, there it is, right there. Dragon Age started off so strong as a series. Say what you will about 2 and Inquisition, which I both enjoyed, but Veilguard fell, and it fell really hard from what it even meant to be a Dragon Age game. I do not think that time will allow me to see the hidden beauty in this title. I am going to continually be reminded at the missteps the game continually took along the way. Time will not improve my thoughts on what was done with Varric, a character that was easily one of the best additions following Origins. Many people have various issues with Dragon Age 2, and so do I. But a strong point of that game was the introduction and party member of Varric. He's the best friend type of character you want. Between his writing and delivery, it's simply one of the best parts of that game. The crew that ended up making Inquisition was smart and knew that fans loved this character, so again, smartly they expanded upon him and continued his story in that game. This is an example on taking what the prior game left you, and then using it well going forward, something that the Veilguard writers and storytellers do not wisely do. They had the opportunity to use Varric more, keep him around, do some compelling stuff with him, maybe even give him a well-written exit and death. But here we got a character being relegated to like nothing, like there was no history or gravity for this character. The easiest sign that this was not going to be good early on was when they killed Bianca, a legendary and awesome weapon tossed aside without a care in the world. Ironically, this was foreshadowing for how Varric would be treated throughout the entire game. Then we have Varric sort of dragged along throughout the entire experience, not as a useful party member, but as an injured character that is then used for a late game plot twist to shock the character. No other party members question any of the interactions with him too, which is sort of odd in considering that he died at the start of the game as well. This is one of those subversions for the sake of having a subversion, a surprise to have something to just try and wow the player, with none of the work to really make something like that land. The game has only been out for a month, and yet this still really pisses me off as a big fan of Varric. So I am curious, how is this supposed to get better with age over time? Because it's not like a magical patch can come in and improve the writing and story execution here. Now I want to throw up a game that would actually fit here, that one that actually aged better over time for many people. I absolutely loved Days Gone when it came out, a wonderful PS4 exclusive. It featured a message of hope that really felt earned by the end of the game. Some really interesting characters too, really cool and dynamic zombie fights with the bigger hordes and all of that. I really enjoyed that title. Now sure, when it came out, the game was not in its best state when it launched. It had some performance issues and such that quickly got patched though, along with there being issues with the version that critics received, meaning that critics played a version that regular players did not even experience because of how Sony PR handled this. It was a botched job on Sony PR's part that honestly hurt that game. It then hurt even more where we saw critics like the amazing ones at IGN complaining about too many white zombies in that game for a title that was set in the Midwest, and even better yet, the infection does change the pigment of the zombie's skin, so it's built into the lore. Yes, a critic actually complained about this stuff, and yes, this was also the same person that complained about too much water in a Pokemon title. What an absolute joke IGN can be, but I digress. So over the years when it came to the PS5 with better frame rates, and then to the PC, I think people have been kinder to that game, because the foundation of it was actually really good. It just needed some performance areas improved a bit. With something like, say, Dragon Age, the foundation of Veilguard is rotten. Here you have a game providing several examples on how to not make a legacy sequel, or any type of sequel in fact. Dragon Age is a great one to point out here, on how not to tell a story with a built-in fanbase. This is exactly how you make something bad. This is how you make something that is clear that those developers had absolute no interest in respecting that series. The easiest example of this was that god-awful secret ending, which essentially acts as a retcon, as a means to wipe away all of your choices from the prior games. Those interesting villains that you enjoyed, yeah, they weren't really that interesting. There was another shadowy group controlling everything. What a boring way to try and reset everything. But hey, maybe it'll get better over time. Conceptually, I do like the idea of a game or piece of entertainment that could garner more love and appreciation over time. That kind of makes sense. I completely get behind this, but this is where you see titles that are more underrated or overlooked, getting appreciated more down the road, like my example with Days Gone. But the foundation has to be something good. Like if the guts are bad, then how will it improve over time? I don't think I'm going to suddenly change my opinion, or even think better of this game over time with Veilguard's god-awful writing. I'm not going to be like, well, I'll go back and experience Tasha's quest, and then suddenly notice how nuanced this take on gender is for a video game, how insightful this game was. I think I'll always look back on this title for how poorly it was done, and how it could have been done better. But hey, I can't see into the future. Maybe I end up completely 180ing my opinion on this. What are your thoughts on all of this? Has there ever been a game that you hated and then completely changed your opinion on? Do you like Days Gone? Do you think you'll ever change your opinion on Veilguard? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.